was the boss of everybody.
Yeah.
Get my glasses on here first. There we go. All right, are we ready to call the meeting to order? All right, well, we've got roll call. It's already there, everybody's here.
Except for Terry.
Yeah, Terry, okay. Do we know if she's going to show up or not?
No, she's excused. She couldn't
Okay,
make the meeting.
all right, so we'll move on to item B, approval of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you, it's already been sent out. Any additions, modifications, otherwise is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Would second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second, anything further? Otherwise, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the August 15th meeting. That was in your packet and sent out to us. Are there any additions or corrections? Otherwise, I entertain a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve.
And is there a second?
I'll let the newbie.
What's
I'll
that?
second.
Okay, we have a second?
I'll second.
All right.
I was gonna let Mary.
We have a motion and a
Get it
second.
too.
Any further discussion or
Oh,
questions?
yes,
Yep.
okay.
Otherwise, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to regular business. Consideration with possible action to approve the reclassification of the property manager position to the housing administrator position.
Okay, that will be me. I actually have to leave very shortly. I'm going to a conference, but I'm going to cover this first on the
Okay.
agenda. So that's why we amended it, put it on here. So when Robin left as the housing administrator, we kept that position open to kind of feel how things were going to go. And then we split off Brown County Housing Authority, which made that position kind of a three-quarter time position the way it's at. So in sitting down with Stephanie and Jamie, we kind of looked at those duties, and really, Jamie's been picking up a lot of those administrative duties that Robin handled with regards to the planning and the report writing and contracts and all that, those kind of things. And so when we looked at it, we thought, well, instead of filling like a part-time administrator or three-quarter time, let's take a look at reclassing Jamie, making that property manager position the housing administrator position. And then she would take over the duties, the administrative types of duties, as well as the contract work that the housing administration position did. And then the higher level things I would take on, which is new housing development work, strategizing homelessness initiatives, those types of higher level items, I would take those on. So we wrote up the job description, sent it to HR, they reviewed it. They do what's called the Carlson-Detman screening. Everyone's in a letter on a rank. The housing administrator position originally was at an L. Property manager was at a J, and when they reviewed the position, they put it kind of right in the middle.
Okay.
As a K, as a grade K. And looking at those numbers for the housing authority, it's a net savings, about $4,000 in net savings cost to do that. But I think that's a good direction. Jamie's really stepped into that role and has been doing a lot of this work in the interim. You look so confused, Steve.
I thought
What
we
can-
addressed
How
this.
can I answer your
I
question?
thought we addressed this like 3 months ago or something. Didn't this come up in an agenda and we somehow talked about your responsibilities and/or?
We did, and we just said it was in HR, and HR finally.
Yeah. This is actually the motion part of it, where we'd like the housing authority to approve
That was an FYI.
Mhm.
This
And
is-
your
this
favorite
is the
director's
real
report.
thing. Yeah.
Any favorite directors?
Okay.
So I sent out the report, which kind of lists some of the things that Jamie had picked up in there for the duties, and which has actually been a lot, there's a lot of reporting in public housing, I gotta
Right.
tell you, there's paperwork, crazy, but.
And so my question would be, is it too many hats? Are you able to
I'm
manage?
fulfilling it, I'm doing good, it's keeping us busy. I feel the other staff members have taken things that were in their job description that they may have not been doing before, so we really, as staff, updated everybody's job descriptions of what they were actually doing versus what was written, and I feel we have a very good handle on it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I would
would've been
put
my
Jamie on,
concern.
because I'm like,
Yep.
wait a minute, can you handle it? Because one thing I don't want to do is have so many job duties on a position, and then you
Yeah.
get crazy and you can't handle it.
Right.
But I think there were some things that it was weird how it was worked with the old housing administrator and Jamie, because I feel like there are things that Jamie should have been doing that the housing administrator was doing, and there are things Jamie was doing that some of the other staff should be doing. So once we cleared that all up, it worked then with the tasks.
So who are the other staff then? Ka, are you doing more? And are you
Yep.
able to manage then with, okay.
Yep.
So down the line, as you funneled different jobs to different people, so everybody is able to manage and things are like not getting done?
Correct. I believe we're
Okay.
meeting all the responsibilities.
Okay,
And it wasn't that the staff were already doing those tasks. I mean, so it wasn't like there was a lot of job stuff that was added with Ka and Karen and Steph on that end. So
Okay.
it was really more
Okay.
cleaning up some of the stuff,
okay.
so.
Just want to make sure,
Yep.
I'm in a position where hats get placed on just because you're there. So
Oh.
I want to make sure that you're not.
I mean, one thing which is why I took on some of those
Mhm.
bigger duties, because Jamie did say, look, with regards to the bigger housing development proposals and, the task force for ending homelessness and those types of things, she would not have time to do that.
Correct.
So
Okay, all
it
righty.
kind of falls under a lot of stuff I do anyway.
Okay, I just want to, this
So
is
it
my
sounds
supervisor
like
hat
there's-
is, yeah.
So it sounds like there's been a job description review that's been
Mhm.
going on for a period of time.
Mhm.
And this is sort of the outflow of that.
Correct.
And I'm perfectly fine with it. I think it's a great idea. It's something that every organization should do from time to time as
Mhm.
things
Yep.
transition. I guess what I'd like to do is ask for, and think about this in terms of a time frame, maybe a year, but maybe in a year to come back to us and say, we did this last year, how is this working now?
Okay.
Did we miss something? So I don't want
I
to just
agree. That'd be
dump it
good,
on.
yeah.
And then be
make us-
gone.
And be done. So let's put it on for maybe 9 months from now to start another review, go through the same sort of protocol you went through before,
Mhm.
take a look at this and see, did we miss something? So should there be something else that's changed?
Yep.
Did we overdo something
Mhm.
or underdo it?
Right.
Maybe a better word for that, but just take a look at it and see if the changes that are being made by this are working.
Are still holding. One of the pluses that I think we're counting on is this repositioning, the Section 18 work is going to eliminate some of the public housing things that take up a lot of time as well, which is another plus to do all of this, so. In
So-
9 months, we'll be able to know for sure.
From a quantitative standpoint, we've rearranged some tasks and now we're rearranging positioning. And with that as an upgrade in the letter from the city, you're saying it's about $4,000 worth of savings on
Overall with this.
difference.
Yep.
Including the upgraded letter.
Yes, yes.
That with removing Robin's position, like the savings from that,
Yep.
and then upgrading hers, it's a difference of about.
Less the difference.
And your
of
percentages
$4,000.
changing.
Okay, okay. So you need a motion to approve this?
I do.
This is, I would make that motion.
Okay.
Great job, ladies.
I would.
I'll second it. So, we need to vote.
And then this one, you need to go under Pat,
Yes.
so.
She's not able to yet.
Oh, we didn't hook her up yet.
Oh, does that mean we can do it verbally and in the notes?
Unfortunately not. Okay, you guys should see something pop up. My internet's kind of slow. Motion approved.
And
Mary,
your vote.
would you-
And
You need a
Mary would
verbal
be
vote.
voice vote.
I approve.
Okay,
All right.
great,
Um,
thank you.
Very good.
Not that I don't want to stay for this review of your,
Contractors on the phone before that, too.
Are you really going to a conference?
That's what she
Bye.
said.
100 pages.
Have
awesome.
fun.
Going to put $4,000 on the ponies, what are you talking about?
Put it on flag.
Let's move on to item number 2 under regular business, consideration with possible action to amend Chapter 3 eligibility of the admission and continued occupancy plan. And that is in your packet, or our packet. Fire away, Jean.
All right, so we are getting there. We'll probably have 4 chapters next month and 4 chapters the following month, so we can have a finalized ACOP. So this part of the chapter, like Bill said, deals with the eligibility. Some of the key updates were family split up, if a family splits up on our application, who receives assistance. So in the part of a domestic violence victim, that individual would remain on the waiting list and the other person would lose the assistance. They would just have to reapply if they were still interested. Let's see. If
Would they have to go back on a wait list?
they would have to reapply. So if there's a current application on our waiting list and that makeup splits up due to domestic violence,
Mhm.
the individual that is the victim of domestic violence would keep the application, and the person that
Oh, gotcha.
would have to reapply if they
Okay.
were eligible, if they were still interested.
Okay.
So that's how HUD has requested us to determine that part of it. If an applicant family was married on the waiting list, it's essentially up to the courts to decide who remains on the waiting list. So
Right, because we're not.
we can't decide that stuff.
And we shouldn't.
No.
Right, okay.
What about, what happens when the divorce is finalized? What
It's-
happens at that point?
It's up to the court. The court will make the decision if, which individual will remain on the waiting list.
Okay.
And the other person would then have to subsequently reapply. And then they would
Okay.
be placed on the waiting list for that date and time.
What about when they're already eligible and they're living in the house and they get a divorce? What happens then? Just,
Usually one moves out typically, or we can do like a reasonable accommodation and transfer, but then a minor cannot be in two households at the same time, so usually we actually had to deal with that once where one of the members took one of the children, the other took the other, just so they could stay in the same bedroom size, they would still qualify for a two-bedroom. Otherwise, we look at tax documents, who claims the minors in the household.
okay, okay.
Sometimes you can switch every other year, which is really fun, but
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Well, good, thanks.
Sure. Let's see, some of the other ones were just updated definitions of what a spouse is. We can allow common law marriages to be considered a spouse on the household. Let's see, eligibility criteria. Let's see, the web addresses and just numbers of our HUD PIH notices were updated. And then for Social Security, everyone must provide their Social Security number. And then any individuals that are added to a household, they have if they're 6 or under, they have 6 months to get their Social Security number. Otherwise, they have to supply it added at the time they submit their application. And then one of our big changes for denial of admission is historically, we would deny an applicant for anything violent or criminally related or anything drug related for 5 years from offense date or release date, whichever is later. However, we've changed it to fit Brown County's 3 years for misdemeanor and 5 years for felony.
So, did you always have a near elderly or an elderly family in your definitions?
We always had to have that definition,
Huh.
but we always considered elderly as 62 and older when
Right.
we
Okay.
work with our designation.
I've never heard of a near elderly.
The domestic abuse example you gave earlier, is that superseded or preceded by the misdemeanor felony
Oh, that was
criteria
the
you're
other one.
listing now, right? So if somebody gets, penalized
Yes.
for it, right?
So that's, yeah, so
what
they would
governs?
have to reapply if they come to the top of the waiting list, that's when we would determine their eligibility. They have to be found guilty, so as long as the trial is open and they have not been found guilty, they are eligible to be on our waiting list. If that makes sense?
Yep.
No.
So in
Because
between
they
being
have
charged.
innocent people,
Yep.
yeah.
So we gave them, we took away their part of their stipend, and then they were found not.
This is all waiting list, all
Okay.
waiting lists. They're not currently on our
Not currently
program.
on, okay, so you have a couple that are on the waiting list.
Mhm.
One of them beats up the other one, or
Mm-hmm.
we kicked one of them off the list to reapply. The other one stays on the list, the one kicked off the list has to reapply.
Correct.
But if they're found guilty,
Then they will be deemed ineligible for our program.
Because it's a violent.
okay.
But,
Yeah.
but they're kicked off before they are determined guilty, is that what you're
That's
getting?
what I'm asking.
Of that current application, the individual that was the victim can remove that person from their application. That person can submit their own
Application.
application
Okay.
once
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, like, I feel like there's a gap in timeline now, like, if we don't know.
Yeah, so do
we
they
don't
go
know
back
that-
from the beginning? I mean, do they have to?
So the
be in
applicant that is the victim of domestic violence, they keep their current date and time of their application.
Yes.
The other person would have to reapply, and then that's whenever that person would submit that application, it would be the
So they
later.
don't get the same date?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
even though.
Yeah, but if they're found not guilty, then.
Then they're
we made
guil-
the
then they're
wrong
guilty.
rule.
You know, I guess the question is, when are you making that decision in the process? Because what happens in the situation where there's a fight and they're both charged with domestic violence? That's what's happening a lot now.
Which
Okay.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because they can't figure out,
Well,
husband gets
parties.
shot and wife gets stabbed,
What happened?
yeah,
So-
until they figure it out.
Let's see what
they're both-
HUD has to say about it.
Well, so, I mean, I'm like, part two eligibility, Bill and I have a relationship that's recognized. We're on the list. There's a discrepancy about some domestic violence between Bill and I. You boot me off because I'm a monster until the court says, no, Steve wasn't actually the monster.
It was Bill,
It was Bill.
yeah.
And then who gets the original date? You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's what I
is
mean,
that-
I know.
That makes sense, yes.
So, but
Like, we can't take, we
This is
can't.
like a grade school, or a high school test, or maybe a college test.
Yes, the way it is written, I guess HUD has not thought of having two parties being arrested at the same time.
Well, if
But
we
even
can't-
so,
we can't
if
kick
no one's
somebody off.
been,
Well, and.
if no one's been convicted of anything, we're
Correct.
still penalizing one by putting them back, and even though we have no clue if that
Yeah,
charge
I think
was
the only thing I would
relevant.
add to that is, let's make it less dramatic than shot and stabbed, but let's say that there's a fight.
Right,
The police will generally remove, based on their
Yep.
initial investigation, they will remove one party from the property.
Correct.
So, even if that person's not necessarily at fault, because I've seen situations where they removed the party, but then they eventually went back and charged the party that stayed in the house.
So how do you get kicked off the list? It's by court order before there's a.
So that's the second part. Court, so there's domestic violence.
Yep.
And then there's like, if they're married and there was no domestic violence, who keeps their place on the waiting list?
Yeah.
So HUD has put, I think this was mandatory, right? It wasn't, we couldn't edit it.
Yes.
So if the family breaks up results from an occurrence of domestic violence, dating violence, or sexual assault or stalking, the Public Housing Authority must ensure that the victim retains assistance. That was the guidance that they had given us.
How do they define breakup? Because what if they don't break up?
For documentation requirements and policies related to domestic violence.
that's if somebody's saying, I want them out of here, or
Mhm.
I don't want them living with me anymore.
And
Or-
I mean, we've
or-
seen it
Or I want them
quite a few
off my
times.
application.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
I just don't want to be in a position that we're the judge and jury before judge and jury make
Correct.
determinations.
And we cannot deny an application or an individual until they are found guilty.
right, but
before
they
the
can
court.
still move
Right.
way down on the wait list and
And I
not be
feel that is
guilty.
that would be the head of household who applies his
Mhm.
determination if they want to essentially remove that person from their waiting list.
So,
Because you can have a head of household, a co-head, and a
Correct.
spouse, where essentially
Right.
they all have the same powers, just one is named on the application.
but what you're saying, Steve, is Sue and George are married, they apply for apartment living there,
Mhm.
so they apply for Mason Manor, their name is on the wait list. Sue and George have a fight, she calls you and says, take his name off that list, I want my own apartment there, he can do whatever he wants, blah, 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 blah. You go back to George and say, you're gonna have to reapply, and you can't have the same date.
Mhm.
So it might put him a year behind.
After all that settles out, Bill represents all of them. The court says, no way, this was Sue's fault. Right?
Correct.
And then we gave Sue a spot in line that was undeserving of
Yeah,
our
I mean,
one.
it almost sounds
But
like
then if
if
she
you're.
is charged and found guilty, then she would not be eligible for assistance.
So George
But
got
yeah,
double
George
screwed.
still got double, yeah.
Right.
Has this ever happened to us?
Well, and
I'm
it
just
almost
trying to
seems
think,
like
like-
it's, the old adage, race to the courthouse type thing. So they get into a fight, and it's the first one to get a hold of you, says, I want the other one out. How do you?
Yeah.
I don't,
Right.
So that's the thing, if they both got, okay, you're gonna reapply, George, you're gonna reapply, but you still get the same date, until one of the two are found guilty, then it can go back to the original or just taken off, but
Yeah.
George
You would
and
like to see it
Sue
to say he can reapply as his own application, but he would,
have that date
Same
that it was,
date.
ori-
I
yes,
want-
date
yeah,
and time,
so like
okay.
if it's-
until someone's found, but I don't know if that HUD allows that, is what I'm saying.
Can I-
So I just am looking for HUD to make a determination on that.
Board, do it.
Well, just as a tenant living in the building, at the rate the courts go, the person could be in the building, and we do have some fears living there of
Sure.
having people
Absolutely.
moving in that have.
So are
But
you
you
saying
can't
that
do
this
that
was
because
HUD
it's guilty.
required language?
Yeah.
So the only
Does that make
kind of
sense, Jamie?
similar situation
Yes.
that I've ever dealt with where someone, so you guys are talking if they're on the wait list and they're not offered anything yet. So let's say it's Annie and Don. And so Annie comes and says, I want Don off. So let's say when they applied, Annie was head of household. So she's listed as head of household. So the only thing I've ever dealt with was when someone actually did come in and say, I have police reports and I have I have a no trespass or like a restraining order on him. And then usually when they say that over the phone, I say, sorry, I'm gonna need documentation before we could remove that other person, which is the husband or the boyfriend. And then when they bring that in, that's when we remove them. So I've only dealt with that when like there was actually domestic violence,
when
they had the police report.
The
Okay.
applicant
I
is
can-
taking a
Yes.
sublet off their list.
Yes.
And that seems plenty reasonable.
Right,
Just,
okay.
I just don't wanna,
I don't want, like you said, be the judge.
right,
So
but
is-
before the process happens.
Is this HUD required language?
so the domestic violence part is.
Yes.
That is, but I'm looking for the GVHA policy, that's where I think we can edit.
Yes.
So other former family members may submit a new application with a new application date and time if the waiting list is open. So we can edit it and say, other former family members may submit a new application and will be honored with the original date and time if the
Okay.
waiting list is open.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, that makes sense.
That would make sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, sidebar, how often do you have to defend HUD's decisions to our nonsense logic?
Not very often. We have very few that actually
Awesome.
go
That's
through
right.
our original decision.
Yeah, which is perfect.
Yeah, on the Section 8 side from the county side, when we've gone to court on some of these things have come up. There was a policy thing that came out from HUD a couple years ago that said that we couldn't go after somebody for a violation for criminal conduct or whatever until they've been convicted.
Yes.
So even though in the past we had gone after them if there was a police report.
Yep.
There's a police report at one of our properties.
Right.
We try to kick the person out. HUD says you can't kick them out until they're actually
And that was a
convicted.
change in
Yes.
policy from HUD. And then
Yep.
there was a specific letter to that specific point that you had to wait until there was a conviction before you could do something.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
so like Mary
Because
said,
you're
if
gonna
that
sit until proven
happens,
guilty.
Sure.
yeah,
Right.
and if they're like living there, like so if someone's they're not convicted yet, so they still have a court date, let's say like next month.
Or next year.
Yeah,
Right, yes.
technically, they're still eligible to be there until that court date's decision.
Yes. But however, then, if you want to muddy the waters even further, so say I was charged with a crime today, and my court date isn't until, and I'm found guilty next year, I technically was no longer eligible for assistance November 1st, the first of the month after the crime, so that all that subsidy in the meantime has to be paid back.
That's what I do. I go after the Section 8s
Yeah.
Okay.
for those payments.
So we can,
Sweet gig if you can get it, Bill.
Yeah.
So it could be
Yeah, we
back.
should see some
tax
of the
return
people we have to
intercept
deal
program is
with.
really fabulous.
Yes.
Wild. Okay, thanks, sorry.
No worries, it's all right.
Any other questions regarding this?
Was everybody okay with changing of the misdemeanor and the
Mhm.
felony 3 to 5 years?
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? I will make that motion.
I will second.
Motion and a second.
Do it, Bill.
All right, should pop up.
Shoot, how did I just lose myself?
And like, it's one of those that's subject to how you phrase it.
Do you still see it, Sandy? Oh.
No, I gotta get back in.
That's right. I
I'm
can
sorry,
vote
that
for
was just the
you.
funniest thing ever.
And then Mayor, I need your
lose
voice
myself.
vote. Are you okay
How
with
did I
this?
lose?
Okay.
Myself, or how did I lose myself, or how?
There's an inflection there that
I got
really
you.
changes.
Motion approved.
All right.
Oh, did you vote, Mary? Okay.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item number 3, consideration with possible action to amend Chapter 5, occupancy standards and unit offers of the admissions and continued occupancy plan.
All right, so the key changes are regarding the maximum number of persons in each bedroom size. We are following fair housing and the City of Green Bay's housing and building codes. So it's 150 square feet of living space for the first individual, and then they would require 100 square feet for the next individual. And a minimum sleeping area has to be 70 square feet. So just based on our square footage and just kind of mimicking the Brown County Housing Authority, we changed our bedroom size minimum and maximum numbers. Let's see. And then we updated how we offer applicants to what we were practicing, where we would require our tenants or our applicants to pay the security deposit in full within 2 weeks and signing their lease.
Does this drastically change our percentage of occupancy?
For which part?
You're changing the number of occupants
No,
available
no.
by square footage?
No, it's just us following fair housing, just having it in our update that we're gonna follow the fair housing codes. Cause like, our small unit is 380 square feet. So
Yeah.
technically, we could have 3 individuals living in a 1-bedroom apartment, which we do.
Yeah.
Cause like, we have mom and dad and baby.
Yeah.
Before, we only had said that a maximum number could be 2.
Right,
Oh,
so now,
okay.
So we're just-
now we add up our total maximum number, and it's a different number than what we had for a total maximum number before.
Correct.
But our number of occupants hasn't actually changed.
Correct. It's just
So
who,
now we have.
the
a
family
lower-
size is who we allow in.
So now we have a lower percentage of occupants relative to the total available, isn't it? No?
No, it's the other way.
It's actually the other
I was
way
like,
around.
it's
We've
the
had
other way.
more. Because now they're letting the 3 instead of the 2.
instead of 2.
So there's more.
So we have had quite a few applicants that are mom and dad or 2 adults and 1 child, and before they were not allowed in a 1-bedroom
Okay.
Mason Manor unit specifically, where we have a very high need for 2-bedroom units.
Yeah,
That's a very long waiting list.
I see.
And so if we change some of our occupant standards, this will allow more individuals.
Yeah.
So the larger 1-bedroom, is that 4 people?
No, it would still be 3
3?
because it's a 1-bedroom.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Let's see. The process of how we offer to families, we just updated to what PA actually does based on the waiting list. And then it was a little older, our ACOP, where it was never updated that it said Mason Manor was a retirement community. So we have updated that verbiage and said we are designated where 85% is elderly and or disabled, and 15% of our tenants at Mason Manor specifically is general occupancy.
Any questions? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Can I do this part?
Mhm.
Oh, I'll second.
All right, very good, thank you. So we have a motion and a second, and we'll vote here in a second.
How about?
There are gonna be people that won't like this though, because there'll be more kids in the 1-bedroom apartments.
But it's practicing what we kind of preach, and it follows the Brown County Housing Authority, because a
Yeah.
living area is more or less for our scattered sites as well, because the living room technically can be considered, and it is a bedroom area, yes. So when it's, we have a lot of larger, I think this will significantly change, or not significantly, but it will more change scattered sites, because of, we have very large families applying.
Yes.
And we do not have
Oh, yeah. I
the
can see that,
units.
Yeah.
So if we consider, if we have a 3-bedroom household, before, we could only have 6 people in that household, but now we can have 8.
Mm.
And that, I think this will
There's 3 in my
more or
bedroom.
less significantly change scattered sites versus Mason Manor.
Yes,
Both beds are
because our
good.
largest bedroom size is 4 bedrooms, but we get families with like mom and dad and then like 9 kids, or like 8 kids.
Yes.
sometimes we look at it and then you have to figure out, okay, are they all gonna fit in there? Or are they ineligible because they're too big?
They're too big.
Yeah.
Right.
So prior, we could only, if it was a 4-bedroom, we could only have 8
Eight.
people. Where there's a lot of bigger families coming to our area, and this will accommodate their family size if we change it in our ACOP.
Okay, I think it's great.
All right, motion approved.
All right, moving on to item number 4. Consideration with possible action to amend Chapter 6, income and rent determinations of the admissions and continued occupancy plan.
The only key changes are the web addresses and the PIH notices that were given from HUD, so.
Okay. I will move to approve.
Oh, there you go.
Is there a second?
Yep, Steve did.
Okay.
Right, should come up on your screens. Okay, motion approved.
Mary Gold?
Oh, voice vote, please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Item number 5, consideration with possible action to amend Chapter 7, verification of the admissions and continued occupancy plan.
All right, so the key changes on this one were just again web addresses and the PIH notice numbers, and HUD's hierarchy of acceptable documents of income and when each document is accepted. So there is a hierarchy of how we can't just have a tenant say, I make $10 an hour at $40 an hour. Like, we would prefer something from the employer, pay stubs, or then like they can do a
Oh,
notarized
sure.
statement, so there's a hierarchy on the documentation or social security verifications. So we are just following HUD's updated hierarchy of acceptable documents. And if we show like a due diligence that we've reached out to so many employers at so many times, then we can take notarized statements from tenants.
So what are written third-party verifications, written third-party verification forms, those types of things, oral third-party?
Yes. So in our housing system, we have a form that's generated that I can send to the employer. Like,
Oh, okay.
that would be considered a third-party
Third-party,
verification
okay.
form. A third-party verification document is something from the employer stating from, like on their letterhead, so-and-so works so many hours, that's an hourly rate, and that would be
Okay.
third-party documentation.
And I have a form too.
Yes, Scott has a form too that we
Because there's
send out,
some
yeah.
employers where they're like, we're not sure what you want, send us something, we'll fill it out. So then I had to create one.
So people that
Oh, no.
their hours are changing constantly every week, do they have to have this continually done?
Yes, and we change rent monthly for some
Wow.
tenants.
Is there, maybe it's just my mood today, is it consistent with our privacy policy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, or we can use three consecutive pay stubs.
And
At
that's
a
what
minimum.
normally most people do,
Okay.
3 consecutive pay stubs, yeah. What
Sometimes
about, are you guys all notaries?
No.
No,
Okay.
Stephanie is a notary because internally Karen, Ka, and myself are all in tenant files. We cannot notarize.
Okay.
Since Stephanie is kind of like a removed party, she can notarize, but
Okay.
she's last case scenario. We would prefer somebody else, like their bank or
Bank
their,
okay.
yes.
yeah, otherwise we have to schedule Stephanie to come
Yeah.
over, or if we have to come over with the person.
They
so-
can, yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, you guys can always send tenants here because we do have more than me as a notary on this floor also.
I usually refer them to the banks,
Yeah.
like if they bank somewhere, because then
A lot of times.
they'll do it for free if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
a customer
free
there.
service.
Well, notarizing is free anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, otherwise, is there a
Keep
motion?
them coming.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
I know, man, it's all good.
All right, pop up on your screen for vote. And then Mary, yep. I guess since you motion. I just have to make it over. Okay, motion approved.
All right, moving on to item number 6. I think that's where we are.
Yes.
Consideration
Chapter
of
8.
possible action to amend Chapter 8, leasing and inspections of the admissions and continued occupancy plan.
All right, so HUD previously said that we have to have a no smoking policy now, which was effective July 1st of 2018, but now they are requiring it to be in our ACOP, so we just added that verbiage.
What's an ACOP?
Our admissions and, sorry, lots of acronyms, emissions and continued occupancy plan.
Okay.
So that's like the Bible that we follow, that HUD puts out. So we have to actually have verbiage in our ACOP, even though previously we had to have an addendum to our lease regarding no smoking. So now it is in our ACOP, and we also had to have a revision regarding our minimum heating standards. So we have a minimum heating standards. If we supply the heat, if we control the heat, it has to be at least 67 degrees or higher. If the tenant controls the heat, our equipment has to at least hit 67 degrees. So we had to have that in our ACOP.
That was new.
Yes, that was new.
And so is it nationwide now? It's a HUD rule that all HUD are non-smoking?
Yes, that was the final
Wow.
rule. So it had to be, the final rule was all public housing properties had to be smoke-free.
Okay.
It was our discretion to do it off our property.
Correct, yep, okay.
Yes, that was the final rule back in 2018.
Yeah, but there still were, well, of course, some of them are switching, but like Villa West, they just switched
That's HUD
recently.
funded, that's not public housing.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Any additional questions?
It looks like you also added a bunch of like move-in checklist, rental agreements, pest control addendums, garbage
What's
policy,
the
parking
barbecue
addendum.
policy? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I lied about the no questions.
He's smiling
So I think it was last year, or the year before, and my brain is getting all mumbo jumbo.
2 years.
But our insurance company wanted us to have a policy regarding barbecue, so we have created a barbecue policy and have all tenants sign it now. So then,
And what is the barbecue?
Yeah, what is it?
The most important thing on there is if you have your own,
Yeah.
and you like, so if you have your own and you live at our houses, you have to be 10 feet away from the unit using the barbecue.
and they can't be stored inside.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
like
especially with the
gasolines and stuff, and they'll be
propane.
stored in
Because they were
that.
stored in their
Propane.
storage
Yes.
units.
Yes,
It's actually building code.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
mhm.
But if people don't hear it, they don't know it
I mean,
exists,
if
so
it-
they're just protecting themselves.
I know it
yeah.
exists, and if it's raining,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna follow it. I. What? Yeah. No,
So-
yeah, right, huh? Smoked meats, I love it.
So that's when I saw the barbecue policy, I was concerned that we were kind of discriminating against a certain type of
Yeah.
cooking process.
Like a Miller Park sausage.
Yeah, you couldn't,
And when you're-
you couldn't go to Joe's Barbecue and bring it home and eat it. You had to eat it off the property.
When you're on the first floor, your
Actually
windows
using a
face that,
barbecue
and people are
implement.
right next to your windows, that's, I've lived in places like that.
At
that's
Mason
hard.
Manor, I've seen people like barbecue in our gazebo, like,
Mhm.
so like, cause it's big enough, so
Yeah.
they'll sit on like the benches and stuff, and then put the grill right in the middle, but it's like, you guys, it's under, you know, the wooden.
Yeah.
bench and
Yeah.
everything. So you're like, no, don't do that, you know? So, that's the point of the barbecue policy.
Yes.
All
To
right,
make our
so
insurance
we've got,
company
we've
happy.
got all our meat cooking. We're
Heck
straight
yeah,
out
I
here.
would like to make the motion to approve these changes.
I will second.
We prompt on your screens.
And I vote yes.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
You're done with the ACOP.
Until
Yay.
next month. Until next month.
I
There's
cannot
so-
wait, personally, I cannot wait.
There's 4 or 5
I'm
more
gonna read
chapters
them
left.
verbatim, every line.
Motion approved, by the way.
All right, moving on to informational. GBHA bills.
That was in your packet. Are there any questions?
Is there anything out of the ordinary? I mean, I didn't see anything when I looked, but I'm not as good at reading these as some maybe.
I think it's, because we skipped a month, so it is quite long.
Yep.
The only significant thing is that we did finally get, from Lutheran Social Services, they forgot to bill us for a couple of months, we did finally be done.
Oh, wow.
We were really hoping they'd just not bill us.
Was there anything that came up over the normal?
No, everything was pretty standard.
Okay.
It was either standard or things that you had already previously approved.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, is there a motion?
Oh, these are accepted based on file.
A motion to accept and place on file? I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll need to.
Yep, no vote, yep.
Okay.
I suppose what.
Number 2, GBHA financial report.
All right, so, that is in your packet also. If you notice that there are frowning faces, that is because once I had gone through all our information and I updated everything from 2018, because our properties are not aging backwards, it costs more and more to update and keep everything. So 6 months' worth of expenses has increased. So the 6 months' worth of expenses, that is what HUD allows us to keep as a reserve. So our projected reserve is under what HUD would allow. It's not that we're short money, it's just that this is one of the reasons why we need to look at repositioning, because the cost of fixing these units is just going to outpace what we have,
Okay.
so.
And is it because of misuse, or is it just because of age?
It's because of age. I mean,
Okay.
when we
We
have,
acquired our scattered sites over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And we did a really awesome remodel at that time. Well, they're just not standing out
Well,
right
it's
now, so.
rough.
Yep, so we are in the process of redoing 6 or 8 different properties for roofing, siding, or
Sure.
both. And just like the flooring isn't holding up anymore, so
Oh,
we,
after, yeah.
yeah, so there is some
Yeah.
flooring that we
Issues.
put in, yeah.
And then are you putting in, like for flooring and stuff like that, is it gonna be primarily like a laminate? Are you doing, no, I mean, what are you doing? Is
At
it-
Mason Manor, we're continuing with carpet, that's what we
Correct.
have, until we look at repositioning
Right.
what.
What about your scattered sites?
Scattered sites, we are removing the vinyl or tiling that was originally, or carpet, and now we're putting a vinyl planking down.
You are, okay,
Yes.
I was just wondering what you were using.
Yeah, we're using
Okay.
a vinyl planking now, or Duratile in the bathroom set, hold up better.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to accept this place on file.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 3, Langen reports. Actually, it's plural because there's 2 of them.
Yes.
One for August and one for September. Any questions by anybody? Otherwise, I will make a motion to accept and place both reports on file.
Second.
Motion has been made and there's been a second. Any opposed, any objection?
Oh, it's great to see no fraud.
It's accepted. All right, item number 4, director's report.
All right, so I have a few things. We have our bedbug quarterly inspection next week, so next month we will report back on that. Our November meeting, we are going to be holding our annual public hearing. Since we are starting to look at the idea of repositioning, we would have had to do a significant amendment to our annual plan, but HUD has just recommended that we just redo our new 5-year plan, which is due next year. So it will be our public hearing for our 5-year plan, so we didn't have to do a significant amendment and then the 5-year. That will be on the agenda. And then previously we told you that we were doing a capital needs assessment for Mason Manor. That was almost 2 months ago. In our contract that we signed, they promised a report back in 20 business days. That has come and gone. So we have been trying to correspond with them to get that report, and they said that they can no longer fulfill it, even though they've come and done the inspection. So we've waited 2 months, and now we are going to go back to the next lowest responsive bidder to do a new capital needs improvement inspection, and then
wow.
hopefully we'll get the report. So,
Okay.
Okay.
yes,
Disappointing? Okay.
yes.
Really disappointing.
Yes. And it's just frustrating all around because we had to go into everybody's units. For the first one, it took an entire day for staff's time and bothering our tenants, and now we have to restart from the beginning, which only puts us 2 months behind to figure out which direction we have to go for Mason Manor and
Sure.
repositioning. So we have not paid that previous contractor. So
Okay.
Who was the next? Well, I don't think it was Burner Shower. We were way up there.
yes.
I think we priced it pretty accurately.
So the next one is roughly $2,500 more than the original one. It went from $4,000 to roughly, I think, $6,500.
Okay.
And then just one other thing,
I know.
the audit finished up yesterday, so we should be getting audit reports. They'll have drafts to me by the end of November, so then either December or January, we should have finalized reports.
Okay.
Okay.
Very
Take
good.
It's been busy.
It is,
Yes.
Did it go good?
Yes,
Who said,
Yeah.
just take the cheapest one?
Right.
We do.
We do.
No, somebody advised us that.
It's just a general city policy.
All right, right on.
All right, any further questions regarding the
I'm
director's
gonna take that
report?
back to my boss, he'll be thrilled. I'm just saying.
All right, is there a motion to accept and place on file?
There's no report,
Oh,
other than the verbal.
Verbal.
Yeah.
Other than the verbal.
Accept the verbal. All right, occupancy report for the month of October.
All right, also in your packets. So Kat and I added a new line.
Wow, you guys are doing great.
We are doing really fabulous. I
Yeah.
think we had a Lisa that was scheduled for, I think, last Friday, but he had the stomach flu, so we're like, please stay away. We don't need to get it in our office because it will wipe all of us out. So if we would have signed that lease, we would have been 99.37% occupied for Mason Manor, which I honestly, in my almost 4 years, can never remember a number that high,
Yeah.
which is fabulous. So yes, we are just moving along. We're doing really fabulous. The line that we added, I just think it puts a little bit more into perspective, because yes, we can say we have so many people on the waiting list, or we have so many units upcoming, but so far for 2019, we have signed 46 new leases and 49 tenants have moved out. So that's roughly 25%.
Wow.
So I feel that really, those numbers really put into perspective how busy
You've
we are.
done.
We can say
Yep.
that 3 or 4 or 6 people move out every month, but to see that,
46 new move-ins, 49
we have signed
move-outs,
46
yeah.
new leases, which is roughly 25%, and 25% have moved out this year. And we're not done with 2019, so.
And this is between both?
Correct.
Okay, great.
I mean, I can change that,
Oh,
but,
that's fine.
yeah, so that was as of October, so we still
Wow.
have all of October, all of November, all of December still, so.
Awesome.
Mhm.
everybody's gonna stay.
On the 9-month follow-up Bill asked for, you
No, it's been cool.
Yeah.
So do you have two bedrooms coming up that are available? Is that what that meant? Or you just have 2 people, because it said Mason Manor, nursing home, a 2-bedroom, and it says 2 across?
Oh, it's just separate. That's just like, so we have, I think I know where you're looking, so.
So upcoming vacancies.
Upcoming vacancies, we just have one individual that's vacating to go to a nursing home. So at the end of this, we only have one person projected to move out this month. Then the next column is just who's broken up on our waiting list.
Yes.
So the person that's leaving the nursing home is not in a 2-bedroom. They are in a
Oh,
1-bedroom.
okay, all righty.
Okay.
So, but you only have 2 people on your waiting list for a 2-bedroom?
Yes.
Wow.
For me,
It's very, yeah, for Mason Manor. For scattered
Right.
sites, it's,
It's a lot.
33 now, but they're very, the head spouse or co-head has to be elderly or
Right,
disabled to
right.
be in a 2-bedroom. So
Right.
we have a lot of single elderly or disabled.
Oh, but you don't have a lot of, yeah, they're widowed or,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Sure. That
Or
would
a
make
reasonable
sense.
accommodation that would require them
Yep.
to have a 2-bedroom.
2-bedroom,
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I think motion.
All right. Second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
I-
Just get in the habit of always
Yeah.
saying when there's a motion.
Oh, I know.
All right, so next date,
didn't say aye.
date of next meeting is November 21st,
No, we ain't-
assuming back here again.
Yes, and we'll, the first agenda item will just be a public hearing to see if anybody has any concerns or issues regarding our 5-year plan.
So there will probably be another capital gains through the building?
Yes.
And then will there also be a HUD inspection yet this year?
They give us a 2-week notice.
Oh, you still
So we
like-
still
We
don't
don't
know.
know.
We're anticipating one, but we don't know.
So I believe I still need a voice for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.